Well, every month here on Island Morning, we like to shine the spotlight on our furry friends and get some animal advice, a segment we call Pets and People. And we'd like to welcome back here into the Island Morning studio veterinarian Dr. Marty Hopson. Good morning, Dr. Hopson.
Good morning, Matt.
And you've brought an orange and a syringe.
Yeah, it's a little bit of foreshadowing there.
I'm curious as to what's going on here. And we're actually kicking off a series of episodes about senior pets and the issues that they face, right?
Yeah, senior pets do develop a lot of issues. Not that you can't get these problems when you're a younger animal as well. But today, specifically, we're going to talk about one of our most overlooked organs, the pancreas. I'm sure you probably haven't given your pancreas that much thought.
No, not as much as I should.
Probably not. Yeah, it just does so many different things in our body and some really important ones.
Like what?
Well, along with lots of digestive things, the pancreas makes the hormone insulin that you've probably heard of, and it does a whole bunch of complicated stuff related to glucose. So when we eat our food, the insulin in our body tells the body to take all the sugars from the carbohydrates, specifically in the form of glucose, and bring it to the cells that need it for energy and also to store it as fat. But sometimes there's a problem with either having too much or too little insulin or the way your body is reacting to it. So you have your blood sugars not regulated properly, and that brings a whole host of problems.
And it sounds like we're talking about diabetes here. So cats and dogs, can they develop diabetes?
Yes, and the form they develop is called diabetes mellitus. And I really love studying the etiology of where words come from. So diabetes comes from a word meaning siphon or to pass through, like a filter, and mellitus is the Greek word for honey. So if there isn't enough insulin or you're not responding to it correctly, the insulin builds up in the blood and eventually it spills over through that kidney filter that we have into the urine. So you end up with sugar in the urine, which is abnormal.
When we think of diabetes in humans, we think of juvenile diabetes, type 1, type 2. So are different types in cats and dogs as well?
There are, and usually we're dealing with animals that are more middle-aged, so not a juvenile diabetes, but you can have type 1 diabetes, and that means insulin dependent. So if you had a really bad infection of your pancreas or cancer of the pancreas, so your pancreas stopped working, stopped producing insulin, that would be type 1. Or type 2 diabetes means there's insulin being produced, but for some reason you're just not responding to it anymore.
And what kinds of animals can then develop diabetes?
Well, dogs and cats, but today I'm just going to talk mostly about the cat.
Okay.
We really haven't talked much about cats in this series.
It's true. We're both dog owners, so we tend to talk more about the dogs.
That's
but
right.
Cats too.
So I wanted to sort of give them the spotlight. So we're talking about middle-aged, older animals, and generally more a male problem than females. And most often they're obese, really, really heavy cats we're talking about. And they start off with a type 2 insulin. So you remember I said that you could have enough, but your body just wasn't responding. So I'm really simplifying things here, but it turns out that fat cells can be resistant to insulin. So the more fatty tissue your cat has, the more resistant he's going to be. So what happens is your cat chows down on its kibble, and the pancreas says, oh, there's sugar in the blood, we better store that, and they releases insulin to signal the fat cells to take it up and store it. But meanwhile, your fat cells are saying, la, 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 we can't hear you, we're not listening. And so the pancreas says, oh, there's still glucose here, we better put out more insulin. And this cycle continues until finally your pancreas is so exhausted, it just can't make insulin anymore, and then you've shifted into to a type 1 type of diabetes.
That is Dr. Marty Hopson, and the veterinarian will be back with us a bit later on in our show, just before 7 o'clock, to continue our Pets and People talk about diabetes and how it's diagnosed in pets and how it's treated as well. So that's coming up in our next half hour.